We'll start from your youth because I want to learn about you. So where were you born and raised?
Okay, I was born in Pontiac and moved around a little bit, Lansing and Port Huron, but pretty much settled in Waterford and grew up there. And went to college at Central Michigan, and then got the job at North Farmington originally, and then at Harrison, and built a house in Orchard Lake, and now I'm in a condo in Wall Lake. I haven't gone too far away.
So you went to Waterford High.
Waterford High, Kroger High, or friends call it now because it's the Kroger store where we used to be.
Got it. Was football always your favorite sport?
No, not at all. Basketball was by far my favorite sport. I played football. We all played 3 sports in those days, and I loved all the sports, but basketball was really what I enjoyed the most, and I thought I'd end up coaching basketball.
What was it about basketball that was particularly your favorite? Was it the best sport you were best at?
Yeah, I was the best at it, I would say, for sure, and I loved to just shoot the ball all the time, and that's what my teammates always said. I probably shot it too much, but I enjoyed it. And football, I was not that good, but I enjoyed being on the team. Then I liked baseball and then fast pitch softball. That's kind of been my athletic career.
What position did you play in football?
I was a tight end, and we had one pattern, a button hook, and you'd go out and catch it, and then safety would hit you in the back, and that'd be it. But it was in the day of the tight tee, and we got right back to playing it last week anyway, so I felt like I was back.
Who was your high school football coach?
Dave Freeman was my high school coach. He was an Olympic ski jumper, actually, from up in Iron Mountain. He came down, got the job as a young guy, and since he has passed. But it was a great experience. I loved the football, loved the basketball, baseball also.
Speaking of your football coach, what did you learn from him at a young age?
Well, probably I didn't learn that much because I was concentrating on basketball more. But we did learn discipline and so on, and we learned to be a team, We had an astounding 1-8 record my senior year, and I remember dropping the pass in the homecoming game that could have won it. I could still look down on that football field and remember where I dropped it. But I really got my football start with Ron Holland at North Farmington. He was a great coach and mentor for me.
Did you have any football heroes as a kid? Who were your favorite players? College?
Yeah, I'd say my favorite player all time was Gale Sayers. I just loved the way he ran. I still think he's one of the best running backs ever if he hadn't got hurt. And my son is named Lane. He's named after Bobby Lane. I had Lions season tickets in high school, and Bobby Lane was my other favorite.
What made you want to get into education?
Well, I tried journalism. I wasn't too good at that. And I tried accounting, and I was really bad at that. And I said, well, I like sports and I like history. Let's try that. So I went into that and never looked back. I taught for 52 years, so it was awesome.
Yeah, we talked to some of the guys about you Herrington, the teacher, and then as coach. How did you get into coaching in the first place?
Well, I figured I would be a basketball coach. I played basketball at Central Michigan, And when I left there, I looked for a basketball job. There wasn't any, but a good teaching job at North Farmington. And so I went in and interviewed, and they said, well, how about JV football? I said, well, I don't know much about football, but I'll give it a try. And coached basketball in 8th grade 1 year, I had to practice at 6 in the morning, so that wasn't so good. But I just decided then a coach could make a great impact in football. And I love coaching JVs. We had a lot of fun there. And then I got the job at Harrison and never looked back.
Did you? But since basketball was your love, you played college basketball.
Right.
Was there ever a time that you were like, I really want to go somewhere and coach basketball, if that opportunity?
Yeah, I would say my first couple years I did. I think I tried to get a interview in Rochester. They had the head basketball job opening, and I didn't get an interview. And after that, it just died, and I stayed with football. But I got to play basketball a long time, longer than I should have with the 30 and over leagues and everything, so I still enjoyed that for a long time.
You mentioned that the coach that you coached under at North Farmington, and talk about the impact he had on you in teaching?
Oh, yeah, tremendous impact. You know, he was a very stern taskmaster. Believe it or not, when I was at North Farmington, kids actually sat on the bench. You didn't get to stand on the sideline, you sat by position. He taught me what organization meant, and a lot with motivation. We're still close friends. He became our athletic director later, and has been a great supporter. He really got me my start and got me loving the game.
When did you hear they were building a new high school over on 12 Mile Road?
You know, I think around 68 or so, I was still coaching JV. Then I started thinking about applying for it, and I didn't know if I'd get it or not. We'd had good JV record. We won 36 in a row at one stretch, so I thought I had a pretty good chance, but they had two ex-head coaches applied for the job, and so I didn't know, and when I got it, I was really excited in 1970.
Talk about, and I didn't know this until some of the guys mentioned, talk about how rural it used to be down there.
Yeah, you know, I tell the kids this, they don't believe it. North Farmington High School was on a dirt road with an airport across from it, and there was a big tree in the middle of 13 Mile and Farmington Road, and you had to drive right or left around the tree. Orchard Lake was two lanes. There was nothing, no buildings along it hardly, and all the cross streets were dirt, you know. Inkster was dirt, Middle Belt was dirt. I'd go up Haggerty, that was dirt, and that was 1962, so it's unbelievable.
Excuse me. In essence, then, when you get to Harrison, you've got a lot of farm boys, basically.
Yeah, you know, when we went over to Harrison, the school split and so on. We didn't know what we were going to have, and we didn't have a lot of athletes that came over, but we had a few, and we were able to get through the first season with 11th graders and have a winning record, and it just got better and better, and it's just it's been a great run. We just I can't believe the school's closing. It's very sad to us, but time moves on.
You were pretty much a young man, I think early 30s when you got the job.
30 years old when I got the job. That's right.
So in essence, it's really unique because you're not that much older than the kids you're now teaching and coaching. You relate obviously to them differently than you would as an older man. So what were those first few years like?
Well, the first few years were pretty tough, you know. It was in the early 70s. It was not a real easy time to coach or teach. We kind of had that thing where the jocks versus the freaks, and there was a few other problems going on, and then the government said that you could drink when you're 18. That made it a little tougher. So that was a tough time. But with us, about 74 kind of turned the corner. And guys were really buying into all the traditions, and we built the traditions with Coach Sutter over the years. And I just had great assistant coaches for my whole career, and it just kept going.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Thorne mentioned that. I think it was the just your second season or so. I think you guys won the conference championship, and I think it was over Mott. I think it was
right.
Or something. Yeah. And you know, he talked about just how I mean, for a second-year team to be able to do that, what an accomplishment.
Yeah, you know, that was tremendous. I think we lost them out 40-0 the first year, and then we beat them for the championship. And then the next year we came back to earth because we went 4-5, one of our losing teams. So my favorite saying is, when you lose, you're never as bad as you think you are, and when you win, you're never as good as you think you are. So as a coach, and then we just start building. And in '74 we had a really good team. Lost our last game, and then in '76 we were in the Silver Dome. You know, the first team to play in the Silver Dome.
High school teams, and you're playing at the highest level.
That's right.
I mean, talk about some of the teams the programs that were just powers in
the
early and mid 70s.
Yeah, you know, when I look back, it was schools like Royal Oak Kimball and Trenton High School. Jack Castagnola, you know, fantastic coach. And then you always look downtown, and there was Denby, you know, and Redford that had huge teams. And the Catholic League was getting pretty darn good too at that time. But there were a lot of great powers. Then you looked up Saginaw Arthur Hill, who ended up having one season where they never gave up a point. They scored 500 some and didn't give up a point. Bay City with Elmer Engel up there, Bay City Central. I guess it was just Bay City High School then. Fantastic teams.
Yeah, they really were. '76, you mentioned it. You guys lost in the state final.
We did.
Not there.
Yep.
That was to Midland Dow. Good game though, 36-27.
Yeah, it was exciting.
Yeah. What do you remember about that experience?
Well, walking in there was just unbelievable, you know. And a couple things I always remember. One, I told my dad, I said, well, if we ever get back again, you know, it'll be about like 100 teams that got to get in before us. But this has been a great experience. And then my biggest memory after the game was Coach Sutter and Coach Sallow, who were my assistants. I was calling everything because I thought you're supposed to call everything. They said, next year, do you want us just stand on the sideline and watch, or would you like us to coach? And that's when I got smart and made one a special teams guy and Bob Sutter a defensive coordinator, and then we took off.
Exactly. I think Thorne, or it was him or somebody, or Sloman, or somebody told that story.
It's a true story.
Yeah, that, you know, after that, you just realized
Yeah.
you couldn't do it, and they're like, you know, yeah.
I actually cleaned it up a little bit. I could tell you what he really said, but it's close enough.
Gotcha. They did want me to ask you how you got Sutter to join your staff.
He was the coach over at East Junior High, and he got the phys ed job and came to our school. And I had known him for a while. We played basketball together and rec ball. And so when he came over, I said, how about taking over as JV coach, which he was for a couple years, and then my other coaches left. And he became our driving force. He was a motivator behind Harrison in the early years, no question.
Was there some incident or something like you had him over for dinner, or they had you or something and pull it out of your driveway or something?
That was his. Who told that story
I
out of
don't
me?
remember, but I had to bring it up.
I went over to meet his family, meet his wife. I don't know if he had any kids then, but anyway, after putting my best foot forward, I backed out of his driveway and backed over his garbage cans. Yeah, I can't believe that story's still around. Yeah, that was 1970.
Quite an introduction.
Yeah.
And obviously you guys were together, you know, it's funny because we've done a few of these shows, and, you know, Tom Mack had Rick Carrot, you know.
Right.
Right, and Al Fracassa had Ron Kalzinski, you know.
Correct.
Those kind of those, you know, guys who are just there, you know,
Yep.
for the whole time, and, you know, it's almost like your right hand.
Exactly.
Talk about, you know, how that relationship and your coaching style with Sutter and Sallow and your other guys too, but particularly Sutter, how that evolved over the years.
Yeah.
And why it worked.
Absolutely. We have different personalities. You know, I'm a little bit more laid back, you know, and Bob is a very fired up guy. So when we need to be fired up, he's the guy that could do it. Plus, I've been blessed with him and then John Herstein now, fantastic line coaches, which to me is the toughest thing to coach in football. Offensive line, defensive secondary right now, toughest things. And they took care of that. But Coach Sutter and I, we kind of bounced off each other pretty good. I handled, I could handle the parents and I could do that thing, which he could too, but he could motivate. And his famous incident, maybe you've heard, where we used to go up and he'd bang his head on the chalkboard the day before the game until one day they were glassing that time and he broke it. All the kids grabbed pieces of it, ran out screaming and so on, and went home, and they still have it at home. It was amazing.
I got to ask him about that.
Ask him about that. And then his wife said, no more.
Right.
I'm actually going to just slide this over.
Oh, that's me.
It's fine. It's not showing, but just in case it falls.
Okay.
But you're in good shape. Okay.
That's funny. There was another thing somebody told me about, and I don't remember who it was because I've interviewed so many now, that somebody had to.
You can talk while I do that. Okay. We're good.
Somebody had to puke before a game or something like that. I think it was the 70s or something. They were like, "Hey, did you puke yet?" And then you're
Maybe
okay.
it was Thorne.
Maybe it was Thorne who said that.
Yeah, I don't remember that story exactly.
It's funny. There obviously are
There's a million of them I know.
come up. I was going to ask you, you know, you don't get in this thinking you're going to do it forever.
No.
You know, you obviously don't know. Was there ever a temptation to either try another, you know, job or maybe even college?
No, actually not. I was so happy in my job. And I loved being home every night. And my wife was very involved with the team. And I never thought about college. They never thought about me either, by the way. But I just enjoyed what we're doing, and we had so much fun, and we still are. You know, I'm 76. I got a coach that's 32, and we're like best friends. And Coach Thorne, of course, played for me. So never thought about doing another job. I don't really know any other thing I could do. So I don't know, when retirement comes up in a year or so, I don't know what I'm going to do.
So you just loved it so much you just kept doing it?
Oh, it's fun. I love the teaching part too. And I also coached baseball for 40-some years. So everything I did, I liked. Even driver's ed, that's like coaching, you know. And I still have kids that come back who are 70 years old now and say, "You taught me how to drive," you know, which means a lot to them. So
one of the things that for those that had you as a teacher, you know, they really, you know, you don't remember so much about, you know, your education, high school growing up. You know, it was long, and you were waiting for game day as the athletes. But talk about, you know, your love of history and your teaching style.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a laid-back style. We used to have a lot of fun. I taught Civil War. That was my favorite class, but I taught U.S. history and I taught World War II. And we did a lot of things that you couldn't do in school now, like when Lincoln was assassinated. On the film, I'm showing it, and I took a starter's pistol in the back, and when John Wilkes Booth pulled the trigger, I pulled the trigger of the starting gun, and every kid remembers that. Now, if you brought a gun into the classroom, I don't think you'd be teaching too long, even a starter's pistol. But I remember kids bringing in rifles from the Civil War, and they'd go out and we'd shoot them in the back, and we'd look out the window and watch that, you know. So I loved teaching. I had a lot of fun with it. When computers took over, it was time for me to move on.
And you really made your classroom a football shrine.
It is.
Right?
It is.
It's
yeah.
still there, right?
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yep, for another year. So.
What started that, and especially with the captains thing?
Yeah, I get the pictures, you know, and I said, well, we got to display these. So I said, I'm going to put the all-league players up. So I started down in one corner of the room, and then I put the captain's pictures in the corner of the room and each team. And they're all still up there. Everybody that ever made all-league, they're all over the room now. And you walk in, and when we have the parents come in for parent conferences, they would say, well, where are the history pictures? And I said, well, I'd put up a picture of Lincoln, so I get away with that.
Because that was the football meeting room, too.
It was, yeah. We met there, and we still do. We'll be meeting there pretty soon today. Room 380 it was. Now it's 382, and everybody knows that's the football room.
Right. Yeah, I've got to get in there and get some video of that for sure. You've had, obviously, every state championship is special, each team unique. I would never ask you to say, you know, favorites and things like that, but you, there obviously are teams, you know, and things like that that you just, you know, you always kind of remember. And sometimes you use an example when you're talking to other teams over the years. Are there a few teams that were kind of just unique in that way?
Well, you know, the one year, I can never keep my
Yeah,
years straight, by the way,
I
but we had to forfeit 2 games because we had an ineligible player we didn't know about that had flunked the class that we didn't know about. And I didn't think we'd make the playoffs. They were 5-4, played Grand Rapids Crescent, which was a great team, and they beat them. So I use that as an example, never give up, you know, and you don't know what's going to happen. And then, you know.
Yeah, that was the 99 team.
Okay, 99.
Yeah, it's Crescent, because I've got all the
All right,
championships
yeah.
here and all the games. And yeah, somebody else had brought that up and said, you know, that was a real. I think the JV team was really good too.
Yeah.
But talked about that team really overcame.
They did, you know, and when we found out the boy he had flunked a 2-hour course, and we thought it was a 1-hour course. But anyway, nobody would have known probably. We had to self-report, and we said, well, our reputation is good, and we got to do the right thing. And Coach Sutter and Coach Witkowski, who were with me, said, we all sat down and said that. It was the saddest day of my life. But, well, not the saddest of my life, but football life. And then to go on and win it that year was something. But other games, you know, Forts in double overtime, and Mill bringing us back against DeWitt, beating Muskegon Catholic Central when they were supposedly unbeatable. Like this Muskegon team we're playing Saturday. So those games all stand out.
How much do you get a kick out of the players coming back?
Oh, that's the best. You know, I can't wait till Friday. They'll be come back for maybe Bill Slobin till he leftover turkey bowl, and we'll get the senior farewell, and they'll all get to shake hands after they play a touch game. Used to be a tackle game. Now they're getting old, so some of them are. It's the best, you know. And when we got to 431, we had over 100 players back. That's what it's all about. That's what Al Fracassa says too. It's not the wins. It's kids coming back and what they got out of the program.
How did that Turkey Bowl tradition start?
Started with a guy named Dave Behringer, who ended up being a trainer for the New York Jets. They did it in their side yard the day after Thanksgiving, so they called it the Leftover Turkey Bowl. Well, after a couple years, we moved it to the football field, and it's been going on every year. Slobin keeps it going. He gets all the players there. I think the oldest player is John Spiz. I can't remember what year he played, but he comes, brings his family, and it's just the best day. And the game used to be long, and then we celebrated after short. Now the game is short, and we celebrate long after.
And he said in the years, like now this year, the team is usually practicing nearby, and then there's a kind of a meeting of the two.
It's the greatest, it's one of our greatest traditions, but it can only happen if you go to the state finals, because you don't know when your last game is going to be. So Friday we'll practice, they'll be on the other field, and then they'll come over and we have a little senior farewell, and then the seniors will go down and shake hands with all the ex-players. And they'll go in the locker room alone, and then I'll tell the players coming back, I'm retiring because you guys are terrible, and maybe we won't be, but that's what we tell them, and have a little fun with that.
Good. Well, I'm so glad because I got to get some shots of that. That's amazing. That's a great. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And when you think about it, is that, you know, and with baseball too, and you know, just being coached, but just, you know, being in high school sports as long as you had, I could see why you never want to leave, because it's, you know, it's really the last thing that's pure, right?
Right. You know, it is. It's comfort level, and I'm not saying it's not getting a little harder, you know, but kids at Harrison always just wanted to play and just be part of the team and contribute, and that might be changing a little bit, you know, but they're still great kids, and they still love being part of it. And we've got what we call the boaters, best of the rest. One day on the practice plan I put down, put the best of the rest. I looked at it, it says boaters, so we call them boaters instead of scout team. And last week our scout team was phenomenal. These young kids trying to imitate Riverview, you know, emulate what they did. And that's a big part of it, as long as you can get kids all buying in and all feel important. You know, once you get in the playoffs, not a lot of kids play, let's be honest about it, you know. But it's been fun. I can't wait to get to practice today and get them started.
And that's the most important thing too, right? Is I remember Al Fracassa would say the same thing when we do this thing, is you know, every player, you know, he loves every player equally because they all mean something. Without that kind of synergy, you don't have the special.
That's right. You know, I always remember Coach Sutter saying, you know, he would get on guys pretty good. He said, but he never let them leave the field without feeling good about something, you know. And so he might rip them in practice, but before they left, they knew he was just trying to make them better. And we try to do that. I try to talk to almost every player almost every day. I don't, I guess, but I try to. But yeah, you got to make them all feel important because they are.
You know, that was another slogan on that T-shirt behind you, the STP.
Right.
Yeah, and that came from like a little sticker or something?
It did, yeah. Yep. I think North Farmington actually had talked about it, and it was Andy Granatelli, and it was a additive to your fuel. You put it, but they had the big sticker that said STP, and we said strength, toughness, and pride, and it's been our motto ever since, mantra or whatever you call it, whatever that word is, and it's really a physical thing we do on Wednesday, and kids will come back and still remember it, and when they have things going on in their life that are pretty tough, they'll talk about that.
For a small public school, you know, and you guys have had such a tradition, you know, I mean, really amazing. You're the most state championships, you know, and you're the winningest coach. Why do you think, or tell me why this program for so long, because you just got different generations.
I know.
Why you've been able to to do that?
You know, I've got asked that question a lot of times, and I don't know. You know, we've been able to develop consistency. I think all the traditions in the program, but there are going to be years where you're just not going to have the players. But we have been able to keep it going. The coaching staff and all the stuff that we do and our schemes and so on, I think are good. But I can't really answer it. Obviously, we've had good players come in, and you know, when kids come to Harrison, they want to be part of the football program. And other than that, I don't know. You know, we've been in good position. We've been in Class A. We've been in Division I, Division II, Division III. One of the reasons I think for success in the playoffs is that we have played mostly Division I schools, and then we play in Division II or Division III usually in the playoffs. So your competition helps. But that's one of the things I'm proud of too, as far as the football is consistency in the public schools. It's not always easy to do. And I remember we had a 4-5 record, and some people were saying, well, football has passed Herrington by. I think that was in the 80s. So, and then we won a few after that. So it comes and goes.
And one of the things Sloban said is you guys were very on the forefront of your, you know, and you talked about your scouting reports.
Right.
You know, and how you had those things that your preparation was, you know, they said it was borderline obsession.
It was, and it still is, but it's everybody now.
Yeah.
We thought we were way ahead of the game in scouting because of the card system that we used and how well we scouted. Our advantage was we played Saturdays. We didn't have lights, so we scouted everybody on Friday, even though they could scout us on Saturday. And had tremendous scouting reports. Now it's all done on computer, and I don't have a clue how Coach Herstein and Thorne do it, but I see the results. So, but everybody now with Huddle and so on, there's no secrets out there anymore. It's a lot harder because if they want to know your off-tackle play, they just hit a button, and every off-tackle play you've run all year comes up. It's crazy.
How intricate was your card system?
It was really good. We had down distance, field position, so on, plays. I don't know if you know the system or not, but it had holes around it. And so you would take all the cards and you'd say all the first down plays, and you'd put a knitting needle through it. You'd shake it, and they'd come out on the floor. And then my wife would yell. All these little dots would be around the carpeting all the time. And then you'd put them together, and then we did it all by hand. Ron Brown and other coaches did the scouting reports, and took a long time. But you know what? With all the modern computers, it still takes a long time. We were there till 2:30 this morning getting everything done. So.
And also, he said that you guys, and thanks to, Slovan was a big part of that, was the strength training.
Oh yeah.
And that regime, because I played in the 80s, and we barely lift weights at all.
I know.
And he said, you know, even as early as the mid 80s, you guys had a system.
Yeah, you know, we tried a lot of different systems, and Coach Sutter ran it with Coach Sloban. I've really, all I do is stand in the weight room and talk to the guys. I let those guys do that. That's why I got great coaches that have done that. And Bill has just stuck with us the whole time, and he's changed, but he basically works on the core lifts and does a great job. How you doing? Oh my goodness.
What's the deal with Sloban and his like tank top and shorts? It's like he was over here the other day.
I don't know. You know, we've tried to get him to dress up, but it won't happen. I think he actually had to put on a shirt to go to bar mitzvah the other day, but that's about it. That's his thing, you know. And it doesn't matter how cold it is and the tank tops and so on. But he loves the Hawks and has done a great job with the weight program. And I'm sure if Coach Herstein goes on to become a head coach, he'll be working with him for the weight program.
For sure. You know, 431 was starting to get talked about for even as much as last year, and I know you know it's one of those things that almost can be a distraction. You know,
it was.
You don't want all that attention. Yeah. I mean, what was that build up like? How did you handle it?
I tried not to think too much about it. You know, I knew it would come eventually. We had 2 years to go, but the newspapers kept writing articles on it all the time and interviewing me. And I said, it's taking too much away from our team. You know, we want to talk about what the team's going to do. And then they all gathered there when we played Berkeley, you know, and it would be 4:31, and we had an interception and a fumble, and they had it on the 5-yard line. I said, this is going to be the biggest fiasco in high school football here. Luckily, we went out and won, but it was great, and but I never looked at it like it's me trying to beat Al. It's just trying to put out a good, consistent program.
For sure. And one of the things, you know, the guys mentioned we talked about is you know, just how much your wife meant to the program, and how it's impossible to put in words, but you know, just having that all the time, that's got to be a reason too why the program was successful. You know,
Yeah.
What she was there. Although he did say there was, I think John Miller said it was the Mud Bowl.
Fortson game, yeah.
That she had some choice words for you.
Well, yeah, you know, she was a great supporter, but when we lost with John Miller to Fortson in the last play, when I looked for sympathy from her, she said, "That is the worst damn game you've ever called." So, and she didn't speak to me for a week, right? You would know that. Yep. But yeah, you know, she was a big part of it. You can't be a head football coach and have a wife not buying into it. There's so much time, and you know, she never complained about anything to do with football. Now, fast pitch softball and rec basketball, that was a different story. But with football, she was 100% in, and she's the one that really got the boosters going with the Blackmers and other people, and the Velasises, and it just grew from there, you know. So.
And really, booster clubs, like they didn't really exist. She was like one of the kind of founders of those, and they're so important, those parent, you know, clubs and all that.
Yeah, in those days it was tremendous because they never could see movies like on Huddle now. So we showed movies to the parents every Tuesday night, and that's where you get to know them. And if they thought their kid should be playing more, we'd have them in there and say, "See, that's one reason he's not playing more," or "Your kid really looks good." But yeah, and those people became some of our closest friends, the parents of the players.
Yeah, and didn't there used to be also was it after the game on Saturdays you guys would have a potluck or something, or some sort of post-game party?
Something like that. Yeah. Parents would sponsor a after-game party. Now, most coaches would never go to something where the parents are going to be, but we always felt having a kind of an open relationship and talking about it, and never really had any troubles with it, you know. We don't do quite that much anymore. Things have changed a little bit, and we don't show the movies anymore because the parents quit coming, because they could watch the games on Huddle, and they just didn't come in on Tuesday nights. But I miss that. That was fun.
Yeah. The good old days.
Yeah,
You know,
always the good old days.
Things change, you know.
Right.
That's, you know, what it is. I would say that if you had to kind of say, years from now, what do you want to be remembered for? If when people think about John Herrington, you know, and people say, "Oh yeah," you know, because they could see the wins and losses, all that. But you know, what do you want to be remembered?
Well, I guess just I love being called coach, you know. Well, I guess I better think about this because it could be coming pretty soon. Just remember that I was fair, and they enjoyed the experience. And always remember being a Hawk.